Welcome to Boxing on the Record with Randy and Shot-Time. Shot-Time, what's going on with you today, man? What you got on your mind? You want to get it off your mind and put it on the record?
Man, Randy, I was sitting up here watching Columbo, man, and then this whole news flash, jumped in and interrupted one of those little alerts like a tornado is coming like that. And it just really stopped everything, saying that the whole Thurman versus Pandora fight is off, canceled. Believe Pandora got injured or something like that. I'm going to have to go ahead and see what the actual specifics are, so I can't go into specifics on that, but it's something on Pandora's side about that. Next thing I know, Randy, and which I think public image wise is unfortunate. Keith, one time, which was a long time ago, Thurman had made a video speaking about the fight being canceled, if you will, because of whatever injuries could have happened to Pandora. What is unfortunate about it, and which I guess Keith wasn't necessarily prepared for, not just his contradictory statements. Keith always has to. One thing I do like about him is he does know boxing very well. He's an excellent commentator, and I wish he would just stay focused on commentating. But one thing he is, good at is running his mouth and trying to promote a fight. He will talk all kinds of mess. He will try to promote the fight. So he spoke more as an analyst, diplomat, a friend at the beginning of his thing, talking about the fight being canceled. But then later on near the end, he still tried to talk a little bit of trash, calm out Pandora, and all this other type of things. But what makes it bad on the public image side is he's doing that while he's got these bruises on his face. Anybody, but maybe I don't think you necessarily have to zoom in, but perhaps you do. You can see he's got some knots on both sides of his face. So it's obvious that he was, just in some kind of sparring camp or perhaps some kind of domestic assault kind of issues with his wife and her family. That hasn't been spoken about yet, but maybe whatever. Whoever his team was that was trying to that told him it was okay for him to go ahead and make that video. They left out the makeup person, and they need to go ahead. And whoever fumbled that part they need to go ahead and send that person home. They need to be on a permanent vacation, because if you're going to do that exactly at that time and try to talk that type of trash, that makeup person needs to be there to fix everything. And what makes it unfortunate is other professional boxers have seen that. And again, as fans, as people who may not box, they're only listening to the fight being canceled. But professional fighters who do this for a living, who's been in the ring, they're looking at other stuff. And one of the things that drew everybody's attention who's professional is his face. One of the people that spoke about it is Tim Desert Storm Bradley, who has literally developed a YouTube presence in the YouTube boxing on the YouTube boxing scene. But Tim has this little goofy yet serious, if you will, playing, but I'm serious. I'm joking, but I'm serious. That type of stuff. Running the dozens with you in our days. Type of attitude. So he could not help himself. He had to point this out and make all kinds of fun of Keith Thurman's face and what he saw there. And I mean, it was hilarious what he did, and I totally agree with him. But yeah, you tell me what you think. And before I go ahead and pass it to you, one of the big contradictory things is Keith has had all kinds of injuries in the past that caused him to back out of fights. And so those are some of the word contradictories he had. But the biggest one is what we saw on his face in trying to call out Pandora for canceling the fight. Talk to me, Randy.
Well, I always did like Keith. One time, I mean, Keith out of time Thurman. But I think he has prepared to the best of his ability. So I don't think he's gonna get no better than what he is, because we got to understand something. Keith Thurman is really, he should be out of boxing. I know he probably can beat some people, but he won't be able to beat the top names anymore, because Not because he wasn't as good enough to do it, but I think it's more or less because he wasn't active and stayed active. That's the thing about boxing. We all know that if you get out of boxing, you might as well get out of boxing if you're not active, because your activeness is what keeps you in boxing. We look at all the greats that took time off for whatever reason. When they come back, they're not the same. And I think, like I said, he's prepared as much as he can be prepared. I don't see him beating Fundora. I really see this as his last fight, his grand hurrah, if you will, because he's not the fighter that he used to be. In his mind, he is, and that's the sad thing about fighters, that in their mind they're still that person. And I guess not just fighters, because if we did a lot of playing pickup basketball or whatever, we could be in our 50s like we are now, and we still would think we can compete with the guys in their 20s because we can get out there and run with them. But when we actually look at ourselves, we're nothing like we were at that age that they're at. We're just a shell of ourselves. And with him getting beat up in sparring, it doesn't surprise me, because when you got an old man in there, you're not sparring other old men. He's not in there sparring Roy Jones and Floyd Mayweather. He's in there sparring young, hungry lions trying to set an example. So I can believe that he's getting beat up in sparring, but it don't surprise me because I don't really like this fight for Thurman. I think it's just a cash out, and he got to take the fights that's paying the most money in order to make a payday. In which I'm not knocking him making a payday, but he can't afford at this stage of his career to just fight guys just to be fighting them. It's got to make the money for him, because this may be his last fight. Not just saying that it may be his last fight. Every fight that he fight may be his last fight. So he got to capitalize off it. What say you?
Man, Randy, listen, I'm going to go ahead and go right into it, man. I 1,000,000% agree with everything that you said. Um, this was definitely, and we kind of felt that way when it was being announced, that this was just going to be like a payday for Keith. I mean, he just is not that fighter anymore. And exactly like you said, bro. I mean, a long time ago, he may have been one time. There was one time he peed his bed. There's one time that he said he was doing, but you ain't doing that anymore, bro. You ain't doing that anymore. And boxing is like it's just the weirdest thing, about boxing. The way that you get better is by staying active, is by continuing to fight. The way you're able to maximize your skills and improve on it is by continuing to fight. And it's not about quote unquote continuing to get hit in the head, continue to allow this to happen, but it allows you to keep having that certain level of ring aptitude, the footwork adjustments, the breathing changes that may need to take place between different fighters. You're fighting fighters that have a different rhythm, so you learn how to adapt to those different types of fighters. So I can do this, I can do that. Now I can do this. All these different things I'm not going to get into here just now. All that stuff you don't get when you're not active. And the longer times that you have layoffs on these things, the more arrested, the more paused your development becomes in boxing. And that's just how it is. And then Father Time comes in and starts kicking in. So Keith's got all that stuff because he's in his 30s. He's got Father Time. So now he's got all those delays in his thing because of, whatever injuries or whatever happened with him. So certain fights can happen, and it's just not there. So this was never going to be a good fight for him, but it was going to be a payday. And the hope was that he just wasn't going to get badly hurt by Fedor. He has nothing. Fedor is not the best cat either, but what Fedor does have is that height, number one. but then that heavyweight reach, 80 something inch reach compared to like a cat that only has like maybe a 68. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just ridiculous. And then your footwork is slower. Your first step is not there anymore. It's going to be hard to get under a cat who uses his height properly. It's going to be hard to get under that jab, man. Again, there. And like you said, his team definitely knows this, so they probably had him working with some cats that were younger, and probably taller, and probably, weigh a little bit more so he can, get hit by heavier cats and everything. And he just could not get out of the way as much. He could take the punch, as long as it wasn't to his gut, he could take it, but it was still just too much for him. So if this fight does come back on, I just really hope for his sake that this will be the end of it for him. He really can have a good career as a commentator. I mean, he talks, he's gotten over his little lisp, or he fixed, certain parts of his lisp. So, he speaks very articulate and clear in what he's trying to say, and how he's trying to say what he's trying to say. And I want to be clear, when I'm saying articulate, I'm talking about without all of the pausing and mumbling in between, where that a person probably is developing Parkinson's or something like that. He doesn't have any of that. But that can develop if he keeps taking on just any fights with anyone, especially at 54, and these cats are all younger than him. He'll start getting hit a lot more, and then we'll start seeing some of this damage starting to set in. And his thoughts will be quicker than how he speaks and everything, and it won't be good for him. Talk to me, Randy.
Well, I'm gonna say this number in mind. I think he can still be the one time if he goes into commentating. I really do, because he's great at commentating. He probably can do it by himself because he can talk enough for everybody up there on the panel, and he can make up enough stuff and entertain you enough that you would listen to him if he was a commentator. But since he's not doing that right now, we're gonna see how long he stay in it and be once upon a time Thurman. With that being said, we're out of here like last year.
Peace.